Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze the main tactical theme that led to Arsenal's 2-0 win over Wolves. So in today's video, first we're going to focus on Wolves' shape, then we'll shift to Arsenal's left-hand side, and lastly we'll focus on why Saka thrived down the right-hand side. So when we break it all down and we do look at the board, we have Arsenal in a 4-3-3 and Wolves starting in a 4-2-3-1. First, it's key to briefly highlight how Wolves attempted to disrupt Arsenal's build-up, and with Arsenal shifting into a 3-2-5 with Zinchenko inverting, it was clear that they wanted to ensure that Arsenal couldn't play through the center of the pitch. They had their front two sitting on Zinchenko and Thomas Partey when they moved in towards those zones, and higher up the pitch with Rice and Odegaard pushing forward, it was clear that João Gomes and Lamina were tracking their movement in those areas. That does leave the two wide players dealing with Gabriel and White, and essentially if the front two wanted to step towards Saliba or Gabriel when they got on the ball, then they could simply cover shadow Thomas Partey or Zinchenko in those zones. In most scenarios, the wide right player would shift with Zinchenko into a narrow position, and that would leave Strand Larsen 1v2 against the center forwards. But if the right-sided attacking player did want to step towards Gabriel, then they could have João Gomes stepping towards Zinchenko, and then have the free center back step towards Declan Rice. We did witness variations of Wolves attempting to disrupt Arsenal's build-up, whether it be Hwang blocking off the passing lane in towards Rice when Zinchenko was in a narrow position. If Zinchenko was hugging the touchline, Hwang would stick towards him, and then you'd have the front two blocking off the passing lane in towards Thomas Partey just ahead of the center backs. There was a time where Gabriel was on the ball and Hwang was blocking off the passing lane in towards Zinchenko, and then when he stepped towards the ball, the front two adjusted to ensure that Zinchenko and Thomas Partey were still unable to get the ball freely. And then you could simply see situations where Arsenal were simply a back four and the front four would close them down and block off the passing lane in towards Partey, and that's where you'd see their two deepest midfielders tracking the movement of Rice and Odegaard. Essentially, this sparked Rice and Odegaard shifting out towards the wider areas to attempt to drag out Lamina and João Gomes to create more space for Havertz or the wide players to tuck in, or Thomas Partey and Zinchenko to shift into space to receive the ball. But it was clear through several extensive periods of this game that Wolves' intent was to ensure that Arsenal's box midfield couldn't dominate the center of the pitch. However, when we focus on the key to Arsenal's success in this game, it stemmed down the wider areas through Martinelli and Saka, and what we witnessed in their final preseason game against Lyon was that there was a contrast in how they were attacking down the left in comparison to the right. Where Rice was inverting in that game against Lyon and making underlapping runs to receive the ball from Martinelli to pull the ball back into goal-scoring positions, here he was simply pushing forward to drag away his marker, or when he was pushing forward, he was occupying the center back and allowing Martinelli to pull the ball back towards the edge of the box. There were also scenarios where Rice was pushing forward and occupying a marker, and we witnessed Odegaard shifting in towards that left-hand side to find Martinelli making runs towards left half space, but whenever he got into those positions, his crosses towards the penalty area or his shots were very unsuccessful. The other alternative for Arsenal down that side would be to have Zinchenko pushing higher up the pitch, and rather than attempting to play long balls over the top like we witnessed him do in the early stages of this game that again was unsuccessful like it was against Lyon, he could serve as a passer from the touchline zone and find Rice making those forward runs to occupy the center back, and from there he could catch Martinelli in a narrow position running off his marker in towards left half space, but even in those positions he failed to create or test the goalkeeper. And although in the second half he did a very good job of dragging away two markers and finding Havertz in a legitimate goal scoring position where he should have converted, and combining again with Rice by receiving the ball in the left half space and then playing in an overlapping Zinchenko to create an opportunity, here we witnessed another variation of how that trident of Zinchenko, Martinelli, and Rice can be impactful down the left-hand side, with Rice pushing forward and occupying defenders or serving as a passer with Martinelli breaking in behind or into left half space, and Zinchenko making overlapping runs or serving as a passer from the touchline zone to find Rice so that he could also locate Martinelli getting into legitimate goal-scoring positions or positions to create. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, it was clear in the opening stages that Odegaard was pushing higher up the pitch to occupy and push Lamina towards his penalty area. Thomas Partey's passing, once Arsenal were able to bypass that front six, was successful as he played penetrative passes in towards the front line. You witnessed Ben White pushing into advanced positions, and he also played a role with his overlapping runs. And then it was Kai Havertz shifting away from his markers towards that right side of the pitch, and that's where you ended up seeing Saka also shifting narrow with White pushing forward. That's where Thomas Partey was able to find Havertz in those pockets of space and Bukayo Saka in those pockets of space in the half space to get on the ball and break towards the penalty area. And in those tight spaces, they were able to combine to get themselves into legitimate goal scoring positions. White's impact on the overlap and the underlap was also impactful here, because on the overlap, when he was able to drag away a marker, it gave Saka that extra bit of space to locate crosses in towards the penalty area. And on the underlap, he would be able to drag away markers, and that would allow Saka to either get a shot on goal or pull the ball back towards Odegaard or across goal for Odegaard, Rice, or Thomas Partey to get a shot on goal. In the same breath, Havertz and Odegaard were also making those underlapping runs to help Saka find the space to serve as a creator or a goal threat. The issue Wolves had with Arsenal's first goal was that they gave Saka too much space on the ball down that side, and no one was willing to close him down, and that's where he located Havertz making that run across his marker towards the edge of the 6-yard area to nod Arsenal ahead. In many ways, with Havertz and Saka occupying the same zones, they were able to combine, whether it be from open play in transition, where you ended up seeing Saka playing in Havertz down the right-hand side, and then Havertz locating Saka, making an underlapping run towards the half space, but he was unable to get a shot on goal, or from a simple throw-in where Havertz simply played the ball off towards Saka, and from there he's able to square the ball across the box to tee up Rice. While it was rare that Saka got himself isolated in 1v2s or 1v3s, when he did, he was unsuccessful, and the build-up to the second goal just justifies the movement that he needed to succeed in that right-hand role. He ends up receiving the ball in right half space and running at defenders, but you could see Havertz making the underlapping run in towards right half space to drag away markers, and from there Havertz is occupying two markers, and then it's Odegaard making an underlapping run to pull away the 1v2, creating the space for him to cut on towards his left foot and beat the keeper at the near post. So as you could see, although this was far from a great Arsenal display on opening day, the wide area combinations along with their half space productivity proved crucial towards the final result.